This video will turn your Drake type beats from sounding like this
I say,
into sounding like this. Let's not waste any time and get right into the first beat. I started with this beautiful pad. To make a nice foundation for these kinds of beats, you gotta make sure to keep your chords simple, but make them soulful and vibey, especially by using 7 chords. Now that I had the bass for the sample, I wanted to add some depth and detail, so I grabbed my acoustic guitar and played in some layers. It sounds very full and messy now, but by adding some effects we can create a nice atmosphere and texture. I also added this little guitar one-shot from Omnisphere. Next I wanted the sample to sound a bit more emotional, so I added a piano. I kept this one very simple and I only layered the first chord, and I also added some tension in the end by going up the scale with some chords. Now let's add what you've all been waiting for, the vocals. So I found these vocals in Exhale, which is a contact bank. The preset I use for this is called Love Cry and you can find it under the samples section. After some pitching and with some effects, the vocals sound like this. I also added this reverse reverb from the vocals and a little texture in the end. And yeah, this is what the sample sounds like. As you can tell, the sample sounds really full and probably a bit too much for a beat, but for those kinds of samples don't be afraid to add a lot, especially in the high end, because when we sample this we will cut out lots of the highs anyways and add reverb and all that kind of stuff. So I sped up the sample a little, pitched it up 3 semitones and added some effects. For the drums I started by slicing up a percussion loop. I made sure to keep it very spaced out and establish a slow R&B kind of bounce. After that I just added a simple subby kick and a rim. And then I added this Drake kind of bounce by using drowned out and reversed percussion elements. To finish it off I used a very simple 808, leaving lots of room for the drums and the artist. And just like that, the beat is pretty much done now. Don't be afraid to experiment with the arrangement a bit, add a few switch ups and just keep it interesting in general. For example, for the intro I only used a few elements of the sample and I pitched down the vocals an octave. For the beginning of the verse I used the sample pitched down an entire octave. For the hook I added a 2-step hi-hat pattern to give more energy. And I just added some of the instruments every now and then, just to keep it more interesting. The next beat actually started off completely different, and to be honest it was kinda cheesy and it kinda sucked in the beginning. But I guess this beat will show you that you just have to trust the process sometimes. So yeah, I started off by playing in some chords on the Rhodes. Again, very simple, soulful, minor and major 7 chords. And then once again I tried adding some guitar accents and melodies. This time I used my electric guitar. As you can tell, it ended up sounding pretty cheesy and more like a lo-fi kind of melody. And that's not what I was going for. So when I realized that, I tried to save it by flipping the sample a bit. I took the guitar lead melody and reversed it. And then I sampled the entire melody. I sped it up a lot and I pitched it down a lot. Sounds much better now, and the reverse guitar even sounds a bit like a vocal sample, so we are definitely going into the right direction now. Once again I added a soft moody pad and a piano, both just going along with the main chords of the sample, very similar to the first beat I showed you. I knew that I wanted to use the piano only for something like the intro, so for the actual beat I used the piano chords and reversed them, and I also added this little reverse one-shot that I made a while ago. Then it was once again time for the vocals. I got this vocal sample from Tracklib. It's made by TY, who's a really dope sample maker and producer. I played around with the vocals a lot. I ended up picking my favorite parts, pitching them around and reversing it. And I also added some of my own vocals that I made a little while ago. Before even adding some proper drums, I established the bounce by using some drowned out percussion again. Once again I went with a very simple kick and rim pattern. I just added a bit of variation in the end. I kept the drums for this beat very simple. I just added a two-step hi-hat pattern and an open hat with some delay and reverb. As much as I love being experimental with my drums, finding creative patterns, adding cool fills, I think the magic of these beats comes by making very catchy atmospheric samples and then keeping the drums very simple to leave lots of space for the artist. You gotta keep in mind that the artist's voice is gonna be an instrument as well, and you basically have to treat it like the most important instrument in your beat, so leaving lots of space for that is definitely important. And yeah, that's the beat. I also played around with the arrangement a bit. For example, for the intro I added a new bass line to make it sound more like I actually sampled a record. For the verses I kept it very empty by only using the pad and the reversed piano chords. And for the hook I added the drowned out perks, a few melody textures. And for the end I even played around with the outro a bit, adding a new pad and some guitar chords. That's it for this video. I hope I could teach you a few cool techniques. As you could probably tell, I wasn't really trying to perfectly replicate Drake's sound. I just wanted to show how I approach these kinds of beats, and these techniques work for every kind of soulful trap type of beats. But yeah, thanks for watching and see you next time.